The son dialed the emergency number. He reported his own father for illegal cohabitation. His father called shortly after. What bad luck. I don't know which bastard reported me. Hurry up and bring money to bail me out. He hid himself at the back door of a widow's house. The 2,000 yuan under the vegetable basket told his son. Dallas, who received the money, not only did nothing. He also called the police to have his father undergo a thorough transformation. The coolest thing is his dad excitedly said that the child had grown up. Originally, Dallas was born in Dark City, where people discuss changes in color without rules or laws. Each person carries several lives on their back. In this world, when people reach the age of 18, they will awaken a special ability, and those who awaken the 9-stripe ability will be the most elite existence. Today is the day of the school's awakening assessment. Students are looking forward to awakening a very good ability. Slay demonic beasts. Guard the city. Respected by tens of thousands. When Dallas entered the examination room, the security check gate kept beeping. The invigilator gestured for him to hand over the metal objects on his body. Dallas reluctantly took out his big treasure. He took out all the restricted knives and large darts. The nearby young couple was frightened and gasped in surprise. Who could this person be to have so many weapons? But that's not all. The security gate continues to beep. Dallas awkwardly rubbed his chin. This could be my steel-like will. The invigilator looked helpless. Quickly take out everything for me. I give it to you. I give it all to you. 1/3 of the big treasure was all turned in by Dallas. But when he touched the testing equipment, another accident happened unexpectedly. 9 stripes suddenly appeared on the big screen. Everyone present, teachers and students alike, were shocked. This is the most top-tier existence in terms of awake ability. Dallas pretended that the equipment was broken in order to conceal his true strength. The teacher stood there dumbfounded and said, "This equipment isn't broken." Dallas, however, smashed the equipment with one slap. The equipment is now broken. The invigilator brought him to the president's office on the grounds of damaging public facilities in Dallas. Bald Man glanced at Dallas's information and gazed intently at Dallas. You are from that sin town Dark City. If one day you have 6 or 9 awakenings, what would you like to do most? Dallas blurted out without thinking. I want to serve the people. This had shocked Bald Man to lose his hair. Is this child born in Sin Town with such high consciousness? Have you done anything for this ideal before? Yesterday, I personally reported my father for soliciting prostitutes. Does this count as anything? The president looked helpless. Luckily, he didn't see me. He watched Dallas leave, feeling increasingly puzzled. Why would such a talented person come from Sin Town? And at this moment, Dallas' home is being visited by a killer covered in blood. He noticed someone was coming back. He quickly hid on one side, waiting for an opportunity to act. Suddenly, a dagger was held against his throat. Dallas threatened, saying you better not move. The dagger is close to your carotid artery. You would die if I applied a little force. But I find cleaning the floor troublesome. The killer trembled in fear. I only wish to harm drugs, not people. Dallas pointed to the medicine chest. Go get it yourself. This made Killer at a loss. He said, I feel much better now, no need, no need. At the same time, he stared at the blade approaching closer and asked, Are you going to kill me? It is illegal to kill outside of Sin Town. The red-haired killer breathed a sigh of relief. Consider it a debt owed to you this time. What do you need me to do to repay the favor? Dallas thought for a moment. In that case, can you commit suicide? This thought completely angered the red-haired killer. Can I, as a killer, help you kill someone for free? Please help me kill yourself. Red-haired mentality collapsed. Why do you have to kill me? Because you broke into my room and dirted the floor. If you were in Sin Town, you would have died as soon as you walked in the door. Red-haired was stunned by these words. That's impossible. Sintown only has one pardon slot per year to enter the city. You are definitely too young to be eligible. Anyway, saying more is of no use. Whether you want to kill or chop me, I will comply with your wishes. He spoke confidently, but his body was shaking honestly. But he didn't feel any pain even after waiting for half a day. He glanced at Dallas and asked, "Why aren't you doing anything?" "It is illegal to kill outside of Sintown." "You keep saying it's illegal. Do you know that holding me like this is considered unlawful detention? According to most regulations, it carries a sentence of 3 years imprisonment." It seems like these words have frightened Dallas. He pressed on and asked how old Red-haired was. Upon learning that he was 17, a minor, he put away the dagger. Dallas said, "You can go." Red-haired, revived, quickly ran outside. But he had just stepped out the door. A big hand from behind dragged him back into the room. The red-haired boy completely broke down. "What are you going to do now?" Dallas was solemnly discussing the law. "You have left the room before, so I did not restrict your freedom. This shouldn't be considered illegal detention, right?" The red-haired boy was stunned. Who on earth is this person? The killer broke into the room for the first time. He was then faced with being forced to change careers, just because he stole from the dumbest person in the world. Dallas knocked the red-haired boy to the ground. He completely stunned the red-haired boy directly. My goodness, what on earth is this weirdo? At this moment, Dallas saw the red-haired boy losing too much blood. He then threw the medicine to the killer. At the same time, Dallas reminded him to remember to help me clean the floor. Otherwise, I will be unhappy. The blatant threat made the red-haired boy dare not take medicine anymore. He quickly took on the role of a cleaner, meticulously wiping away the bloodstains on the floor. Just when he thought he had gained a new life, Dallas said lightly, "I forgot to tell you. It seems like the medicine at my house has expired." The red-haired boy completely broke down. "Why are you only telling me now?" Dallas suddenly frowned. He murmured, "As expected." Every time the red-haired boy's emotions collapse, there is a wisp of light gray energy rising up. And that energy can enter the scroll in his mind. Although he didn't understand what it was, it seemed that he was a little restless every time. Dallas stared at the clumsily bandaged killer in front of him. "Seeing you like this, it doesn't seem like you've ever killed anyone. Are you sure you are a killer?" Seeing Dallas questioning his profession, the red-haired boy, Landon, was unhappy. Excitedly he said, "I just made a mistake in that moment. Just give me time. I'm sure I can become the world's top killer." "So the world's top killer is so weak, huh? Can't even handle one of my moves." The red-haired boy is still struggling powerfully. "That's because I am injured." Dallas looked at me disdainfully. "Are you sure it's not because you can't beat him?" Then he ignored the irritated Landon. "Don't forget to continue cleaning the floor." The red-haired boy paused. "Are you suggesting that you want to let me go?" Dallas looked at him as if he were a fool. Killing is illegal outside of Sintown. At the same time, the Demon Clan is launching large-scale attacks on human cities. Although there are experts stationed at all 4 demon-suppressing passes, but the human race still suffers heavy casualties. And it seems like this has nothing to do with Dallas. He went straight to a grocery store. The middle-aged man selling goods had a chubby face. He didn't look like a good person. When he saw Dallas, he pointed to the bag beside him. "Your stuff is here. We're even now. From now on, we owe each other nothing." Dallas picked up the items without a word. "Well then, goodbye." Just then, the scarred man suddenly stood up. Smirking, he said, "Goodbye? You might not see each other for a while in the near future." The moment he walked out of the grocery store, a scarred man fell to the ground. However, Dallas didn't see any of this. At this moment, he carefully examined the things in his hand. This is a demon crystal formed by the demon clan after devouring the vital energy of the human race. Once absorbed by the awakened, there will be a significant improvement. He locked the door, closed the curtains tightly, and carefully pulled a thin line at the door. The other end of the thin line is a small crossbow. As soon as someone opens the door, the crossbow will fire at the first moment. After taking care of everything, Dallas walked to a blind spot in the room and sat down, ensuring that if someone entered, they would not discover his presence immediately. Dallas closed his eyes slowly, holding onto Crystal. An excellent student openly extorts the president. Don't expect me to do things for free without payment. I won't do unpaid work. The president is confused. What exactly is this kid up to? Dallas set up a series of traps. Then he sat on the ground and absorbed the demon crystal. At that moment, the phone on the ground buzzed. The phone call was from Lewis, the mentor at school, instructing Dallas to return to school immediately. Tomorrow, the people from Demon Vanquishing Pavilion will come to conduct a diagnostic exam for Reserve Forces students. Those with outstanding results will receive better resource allocation. He also asked why he couldn't reach your father when he tried to call Dallas. Could it be that the prison does not allow him to use his phone? Mentor just remembered. The teenager making the call is not just Nine Stripe Awaken, but also a person who is ready to sacrifice family for justice. The news of Demon Vanquishing Pavilion coming for a test spread throughout the school the next day. Students aspire to become the pillars of humanity. One person can defeat 10,000 demons. With the arrival of the mentor, the classroom finally quieted down. Just received notice that there have been some changes. This time, besides the people from Demon Vanquishing Pavilion, there are also representatives from the Security Bureau and Reserve Forces, and the assessment format has been changed. 5 students from each school will be selected for elimination-style exams. All students are secretly praying, "Pick me, pick me!" Even if they are eliminated, they can still show their faces in front of the higher-ups. Only Dallas seems indifferent and has a hanging high above all attitude. The mentor pointed to the stunned Dallas, and the president appointed Dallas to be selected on stage. This has also led to protests from the students. Why was he chosen without a comparison test? Behind-the-scenes manipulation. It must be manipulation. Lewis shouted for silence. There has never been fairness in this world. If you feel it's unfair, then use your own strength to break through. If you don't have it, just work hard and stop complaining randomly. Later, he dragged Dallas to the president's office. Baldman saw Dallas looking very awkward. He stammered and asked, "Is your father okay?" "He should be doing fine, I suppose." The president is really speechless. He has been thinking about the issue in Dallas these days, and has searched a lot of information. What makes the president puzzled is Dallas's father. He is a rather ordinary and average person with no criminal record. It's quite unreasonable for Dallas to enter Sintown at such a young age. Sintown also has its own rules. Once someone enters the city, for whatever reason, they cannot leave. What puzzled the president even more is Dallas's father, who has never tried to rescue his own son over the years, as if he had forgotten about him. But one thing he can be sure of is that Dallas has walked out of that extremely wicked Sintown. Even if he is just a harmless child, he is definitely not an ordinary person. This is also the key reason for selecting Dallas. He reminded Dallas that this assessment is not only about evaluating the students, but also about competing for the school's ranking. Don't go easy and let down your guard. Dallas gave him a casual glance. "How much is it?" "What price?" "The rules of Sintown." The president is so angry that even his face turned black. "I am the one who gave you the evaluation quota. In my understanding, you need me to take care of things. The evaluation quota is like a ticket. This is something the main sponsor should provide. Payment should be considered separately." For the school, the president gritted his teeth. "Okay. I'll provide 3 first-level crystals." Dallas is very satisfied with this price. He asked cautiously if there was no need to kill anyone. The president was bewildered. This is just an assessment. Absolutely no killing allowed. Dallas breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, then. Murder is illegal outside of Sin Town. The devoted son reported his father, who was secretly going on dates, to the police station. Classmate's second-generation official threatened, "I can easily help your old man get promoted with just a word." Dallas asked seriously, "Could you keep him longer?" Classmate of second-generation official was dumbfounded. "Are you sure this is his biological father?" President employed Dallas to bring honor to the school at the cost of 3 crystals. Several classmates from the same school approached and struck up a conversation on the bus on their way to the assessment. "Hello, Dallas. I am Carson from class 93. The others are Kai and Riley. I have internal news here. This assessment is actually led by Moj in secret. However, we have a small and remote population here. So, they are selecting some high-quality local talents. They are planning to establish a Moj sub-pavilion locally. Resources will be provided in the early stage by expert. After the newcomers have been trained, the expert will be withdrawn. Even if joined Moj, the status is still very high." He is getting more and more excited when it comes to this. This is a great opportunity to soar. I know some really talented people from the other 2 schools. If we have to compete, not everyone from our school can stand out together. So I came up with an idea. We'll have one person step forward as the main contender for the ranking. The other 3 will support the main contender. This way, the chance of being selected is higher. The other 2 individuals immediately became infatuated. Of course, they chose you as the main contender. Your father is the Security Bureau Director. Carson seems confident of winning. If I successfully secure a spot in Moj, I will only need to say a word to bring you 3 in. With a background in the Security Bureau, plus his previous statements were reasonable and well-founded. He doesn't believe Dallas is not tempted to enter Moj. Dallas asked lightly, "Is your father the Security Bureau Director?" "I guarantee you a promising future if you stick with me. My father is currently in prison." Carson guarantees with a pat on his chest. As long as he didn't commit a major offense, I can get him out just by saying a word. Dallas quickly said, "I didn't mean it like that." "My point is, can he be detained for a few more days?" Carson was completely stunned. How much hatred must there be to send your own father to prison? At this moment, Dallas stared at the speechless Carson, pondering. Is it because the way he was provoked was wrong? Why is he feeling this way? No gray energy is being emitted. As the bus drove further and further away, Carson questioned, "Driver, have we taken the wrong way? How did we end up in the middle of nowhere?" "That's right. The temporary location has been changed to an old factory outside the city. Most people are following us, so don't worry, everything should be fine." No one noticed the smirk at the corner of Driver's mouth. Dallas, however, seemed lost in thought. Shortly, buses from multiple schools gathered together. Dallas fixed his gaze and took a closer look. Mentor Lewis had been waiting for a long time at this point. Carson was suddenly shocked. Sure enough, the genius six-striped Duke also came. He is the strongest in their school. Dallas seems to have no interest in getting to know others. He turned around and walked away. At this moment, Carson stopped him. "Although we haven't settled things between us, I hope you'll still be careful of that person named Duke." Dallas said thank you and walked towards the distance. The scene happened to be seen by the bus driver. He walked in the opposite direction. He met the drivers of 2 other cars. They inquired about how the group of students was doing. The driver had a look of disdain on his face. He has low vigilance and is easily persuaded by strangers' words. However, he also has his unique qualities. This little guy should be quite interesting. Why haven't you subscribed after seeing this? He reported his biological father for illegally cohabitating in order to be a good person. He also repeatedly said that righteousness comes before family, starting with himself. But in reality, he was born in Sin Town and had taken thousands of lives. He, however, kept a low profile, like a student. But even though he tried his best to disguise it, he could not hide the prominent identity of Nine Stripe the Awakened. Dallas was just entering the assessment field when he was targeted by the experienced old driver. This little guy seemed interesting. Perhaps he will bring us some differences. On the other side of the empty field, Lewis was giving instructions before the assessment. In a moment, the Demon Vanquishing Pavilion will announce the specific assessment content. Regardless of what the content is, make sure to remain cautious and calm. Only by doing so will you have a higher chance of success than others. He cast a glance at the vacant-looking Dallas. He didn't know if this kid could bring any surprises. Just then, a military vehicle roared to the scene with a deafening noise. The vehicle came to a steady stop in front of everyone. A macho man with a cigarette in his mouth and wearing sunglasses stepped down from the car. He looked around contemptuously and smirked. He suddenly saw Lewis standing beside him. He took a step forward and walked up to Lewis. "Lewis, what are you doing here? I have been looking for you for several years, but couldn't find you." Lewis fell silent for a moment before saying, "I'm working as a diligent gardener, teaching and nurturing students." The sturdy man looked astonished. "You must be joking. You can still be a teacher?" He only fell silent when he saw Lewis's right hand. The missing pinky finger stopped him abruptly. He took a deep drag on his cigarette to calm down. The teacher is not bad either. At least, they have a more comfortable life compared to us, who live by the edge of the knife. Then he shifted his gaze. "So which ones are the students from your school?" At this point, Carson and a few others were scared to death. They didn't even have the courage to make eye contact with the burly man. Only Dallas had a look of indifference on his face. It seemed as if whatever was happening had nothing to do with him. This also piqued the interest of the burly man. "Aren't you afraid of me? You don't eat people, and I'm not breaking the law. Why should I be afraid of you?" The burly man chuckled at this. "You're an interesting little guy." Later, Logan introduced himself as the decision-maker of the Demon Vanquishing Pavilion for this assessment. And this big guy seems to lack intelligence. He didn't make any preparation at all. He doesn't even know what he should assess. Dallas was speechless at this. If it weren't for not being allowed to kill outside of Sin Town, I really wanted to kill this time-wasting guy. Feeling the dissatisfaction from everyone, Logan chuckled. "I got it. Men should speak with their fists. Let's have a wrestling match. Winner takes it all, loser goes down." Dallas doesn't care. But the girl next to him is getting anxious. "Teacher, what should we do about that girl?" The group of students is about to participate in a competition. The winner will receive the favor of the Demon Vanquishing Pavilion. Most students are rubbing their hands together in anticipation, prepared to showcase themselves. Only Dallas has an indifferent look in his eyes. Because in his eyes, even if it's just a friendly sparring, someone might end up dead. At this moment, a phantom of a teal wolf suddenly appeared behind Logan. The 4 embedded gemstones on its forehead could be vaguely seen. Logan raised his hand, and the teal wolf freed itself and soared into the air, drawing a large circle around the area, marking the battleground. Those who are defeated or forced out of the circle will be considered losers. Then he randomly picked 2 rookies for a match. This match is related to the honor of the college. Both students fought fiercely and did not hold back. But this petty quarrel has attracted ridicule from Logan. There was no momentum. They seemed like 2 women scratching each other. In the end, one student had a slight advantage. He overturned his opponent to the ground and won. Logan mockingly teased the rookie with a smile, then shifted his gaze to Dallas. "Next, it's your turn, you two," he said. At this moment, Dallas's opponent is Duke, who has just awakened the 6th stripe ability. Duke looked down on Dallas and said, "You can still surrender now. Otherwise, Don't blame me if I go too hard later. Dallas ignored him completely, walking over to Logan and asking, "Can we use weapons?" "Of course you can. Feel free to use weapons as long as you don't kill anyone." The students watching sighed in disappointment. He really is a fool. If he didn't use weapons, maybe he could have fought a few rounds with Duke. But now, he would probably just be thrown out of the ring as soon as they met. Only Carson excitedly supported Dallas on the sidelines. With Logan's start, a surprising scene unfolded, shocking everyone. Dallas took the initiative. He acted before Duke could react. Dallas bumped into his arms. Duke didn't know what was happening yet. The weapon in his hand inexplicably fell to the ground. Then he only felt a sharp pain in his arm. He saw blood gushing continuously from his artery. The sound of his painful scream sent shivers down people's spines. And at this moment, Dallas had a dark expression on his face. He held a blade in his hand, but it was unclear when it appeared. He pushed the man to the ground. He reached out and pulled out the man's second-to-last tooth. He held the tooth in his hand and examined it carefully. Dallas does not have any special quirks, but rather, it is a habit he developed over many years of killing. Just a moment ago, Duke still had a defiant look on his face. He was only seen by Dallas once before he was beaten up. The onlookers were shocked. No one expected that it was just a friendly match. Dallas actually used excessive force. But Dallas has developed a habit over the years in Sin Town. Whenever he draws his sword, blood is bound to be shed. At this moment, Duke is screaming in pain, holding his arm. Dallas pressed against his temple. The blade in his hand disappeared like a magic trick. A dagger fell down the sleeve. Dallas firmly grasped it in his hand. He reached out and forcefully brought Duke down to the ground. Dallas lifted the dagger in his hand with a grim expression, ready to stab at any moment. At this moment, Duke was nowhere near his usual arrogance as Six Stripe the awakened. Trembling, he stammered that it was only a test. "Please don't kill me." He was clearly terrified to the core. Seeing this, Dallas directly plunged the dagger down. He plunged the dagger into the empty space on the side. Duke had already been scared to the point of crying and shouting for his parents. Logan also gave a probing nod and complimented him. "Good, good, well done, young man." But Dallas's next move left him stunned in place. Dallas was seen breaking Duke's jaw with one hand. His other hand kept reaching into Duke's mouth and rummaging around. Dallas then pulled out a bloody tooth. Dallas, who had been calm the whole time, showed surprise for the first time. He carefully examined the tooth in his hand, wondering why it wasn't poisonous. Could the poison be hidden elsewhere? He then picked up Duke and began searching every possible hiding place. However, no matter what he did, he couldn't find what he was looking for. Logan on the side reacted. He tentatively asked, "You are not looking for poison, are you?" Dallas stopped his work and furrowed his brow deeper. "Yeah, it's strange. I can't find where he's hiding the poison." Is there a possibility that he never hid poison on his body in the first place? Dallas firmly denied this speculation. Absolutely impossible. If he is caught by enemies and has no way to commit suicide, he will be tortured and would rather die. At this moment, Duke, who was lying on the ground, was filled with Dallas' thoughts. Yes. Why didn't he hide poison himself? That way, he wouldn't be tortured by this strange person and could commit suicide at any time. But then he quickly dismissed this idea. No, not right. I'm living well. Why would I hide poison? Why would I commit suicide? Logan stared at Dallas, scrutinizing. You came from Sin Town. Your actions are decisive. You have a habit of hiding poison in your shirt collar. You always carry weapons subconsciously. All these details indicate that Dallas is from Sin Town. Dallas nodded slightly. Once again, he asked the question that had been on his mind. Do people outside Sin Town really not hide poison? Logan couldn't believe it. Among the candidates participating in this assessment, there is actually a flower from Sintown. He shifted his gaze to Lewis. Lewis, do you know that he is from Sintown? Lewis walked slowly to the opposite side of Logan. Where he comes from, and whether he is my student are related. According to the rules, regardless of past sins, after he leaves Sintown, he will have a new life. Unless he commits a heinous crime, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes for a day, he will always be my student. Logan ruffled his fluffy hair. Forget it, my enemy is a demon, not a human. It has nothing to do with me either. Let's end the assessment for today. However, Lewis, the student from Sintown, may actually be capable. He broke out of Sintown and set foot in the city. Dallas participated in combat assessment for the first time. He went straight for the kill against his opponent. Logan was taken aback by the murderous look on Dallas's face. You come from Sintown. After receiving a positive reply, he locked his gaze on Lewis beside him. Seemingly afraid that Logan might make a move on Dallas, Lewis stood in front of Dallas. No matter where he came from before, he is now my student. Logan smiled and said, Look how scared you are. Well, let's end it here today. The factory inside is spacious, so you can sleep in there. Flowers that have not been ravaged by society are discussing how can people live in such a dirty and messy place. It is obvious that they are used to a comfortable and cozy life. Only Dallas sat quietly in the corner with eyes closed, rejuvenating. At that moment, Carson walked up to Lewis. Teacher, there's something I don't understand. Doesn't higher ability mean higher future achievement? Why has the demon vanquishing pavilion never looked at our ability? He regards himself as having 5-stripe potential. It may not be considered very high in the larger context, but compared to everyone present, he is still considered high quality. Those childish fights are just a joke in front of the awakened. Although he is overpowering everyone present now, when everyone truly awakens, if the awakened object hatched by Dallas is just average in effect, and their killing power is exceptionally strong, in no more than half a year, Dallas will completely revert to being ordinary. So he doesn't understand why he doesn't care about their ability. Lewis looked at the naive youth, speechless for a moment. Then he slowly spoke. Ability is indeed the most important factor for someone to reach the peak. But you have to remember, the world is not lacking in geniuses. The human race produces many more births each year than deaths. Even if it's 1 in a million, 1 in 100 million, geniuses are still abundant. But if having good ability is all it takes to stand at the pinnacle of the world, then the human race would have long subdued the demon clan. I have seen those who think highly of their abilities, only to meet a downfall. He has also seen the pride of heaven from prestigious schools trembling in fear in front of the demon clan army, resulting in a gruesome end. So the thing that this world lacks the least is genius. In front of the demon clan, whether you are an ordinary person or a genius, if you lack the combination of mindset and luck, you are not even worth a sip of water or a piece of bread. Without the determination to forge ahead, a calm mind in facing challenges, and sufficient vigilance, you will ultimately end up nothing but a joke. Lewis also seemed to feel that the words spoken today were too harsh. He instructed everyone to take a rest first. But Carson finds it too dirty, and prefers to sleep when he's tired. This suppressed Lewis's anger, which flared up suddenly. Have you ever slept among a pile of people with severed limbs? Do you know what it feels like to possibly never open your eyes again after each sleep? Being alive, and able to fall without worrying about the safety of life is already the happiest thing in the world. Learn from Dallas. He is more outstanding than any of you. Don't just come in and sit on the ground. Dallas opened his eyes, and was also stunned. What's up? Why is everyone looking at me? Then he stood up and walked out. Carson asked curiously, Dallas, where are you going? You guys are making me want to use the bathroom. Carson felt embarrassed immediately. But Dallas did more than just go to the bathroom. He avoided the surveillance cameras. He walked straight out. This is a fierce dog demon about to attack the students who are not awake. The teacher, as an instructor, not only did not intervene to help, but also stood by gloating at the situation. Lewis poured some toxic chicken soup over a group of students. While Dallas walked out on his own, he suddenly paused as he exited the warehouse. He shifted to the right and leaned against the corner. Right above his head was a delicate miniature surveillance camera. He was evading the monitor's watchful eye by staying within its blind spot. Dallas doesn't know what is hidden here, but he clearly remembers the situation he observed during the day. There is only one place in the entire factory without surveillance. Perhaps that will give him the answer. Dallas stopped outside the rusted iron gate. Leaning against the wall, his breathing became quieter. He gently pushed the door open to observe the movements inside. There were 3 people inside. At this point, they were discussing his teacher Lewis, who had just visited the demon-suppressing pass with that person. He should also be a qualified teacher. It's a waste for him to stay here. Dallas lost interest after looking. He turned around and headed back the way he came. But he thought he was moving stealthily. He was still noticed by the bus driver. He is really a funny little devil. By the time he returned to Dallas, many students had already fallen asleep. At this moment, Lewis whispered softly, "Are you ready to be a lone wolf?" Dallas paused for a moment without saying anything. He walked to an open space and sat down. Just then, a burst of barking came from afar. Dallas and Lewis, who had closed their eyes, were the first to open them. Dallas even took out a crossbow from his arms. He looked at Lewis as if to ask, "Did you do it?" Lewis also innocently expressed that it had nothing to do with him. Dallas carefully distinguished it, and then turned and walked away. And at this moment, the one leading dog demon was none other than Logan, the instructor who had asked students to spar during the day. He seemed quite pleased with his handiwork, smiling wickedly as he said, "You hothouse flowers should also know what the awakened should face." Then he loosened the iron chain he was holding in his hand. Dog Demon sprinted towards the factory building at a speed of 100 meters per dash. Logan quietly lit a cigarette. These brats are really bold. They dare to sleep outdoors. The student was brought down by Dog Demon. The teacher chose to ignore it. Dallas, however, brought up the law. Logan released a just awakened Dog Demon to increase the student's awareness. At this point, the 2 people in charge of monitoring were already dumbfounded. What's going on? How could there be a dog demon in this place? It must be that fool Logan's doing. He turned around and shouted at the bus driver behind him. "Boss, wake up! Something's wrong!" The bus driver looked speechless. "Why are you panicking? What trouble can a little demon cause? And besides, isn't Logan the one taking the blame? Can't you see the mark on the dog demon's neck? A trace left by the demon restraining collar? Moreover, which accomplished member of the human race hasn't grown with bloodshed? Can peace in the world be achieved just by studying in the classroom? But one of them is really angry. If something really happens, don't drag us into it. This is playing with people's lives. We can't afford this responsibility." The driver's mouth had a hint of sarcasm. He sat up unsteadily. He took off his jacket, revealing a dark red shirt inside. On the right sleeve of the shirt, there was a metal pinned. Looking at the metal, the 2 of them transitioned from anger to respect in an instant. Actually, the activities were not bad either. Let's also see how capable these young people are. Meanwhile, Dog Demon suddenly became irritable. It began to bite fiercely at the helpless students. Seeing that it was about to become food in the dog's mouth, Duke struck the dog on the head with a stick. He stood in front of his classmates. "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." The dog demon across seemed to feel insulted. Anger was rising from within. It bit towards the pretentious Duke. It was a critical moment. Carson kicked the dog on the head. Everyone worked together in unity. We can definitely get rid of this demon. Looking at Carson's silly appearance, the bus driver suddenly found it interesting. These two kids have a bit of backbone. But they're just a little foolish. I wonder if Dog Demon's strongest point is his head. But this kind of stubbornness is not bad and worth cultivating. He scratched his head as he spoke. But I am most looking forward to the little guy named Dallas. When they heard Driver say that, the other two staff members searched for Dallas's figure. But after scanning through the surveillance footage, they couldn't find Dallas anywhere. Just then, the bus driver said, "There's no need to look," he said, as he opened the door to the room. Dallas was standing at the door, staring at him blankly. "Would you like to come in and have a seat?" The other two were already surprised with their mouths wide open. "How did you find your way here?" "It was because of those vague and messy footprints of yours." The person asking was suddenly shocked. "So just a few footprints led you here? Are the people from Sintown all like this?" At the same time, he asked in confusion, "Why didn't you go help your classmates?" "Because you are here, so they won't die." The bus driver was a little unhappy at this point. "We won't intervene. If you don't save them either, they may die in the mouth of the dog." Dallas seemed determined. "That Dog Demon is very weak. They won't die even if you don't intervene." The bus driver said angrily, "What if the Dog Demon's strength suddenly increases? It doesn't have that ability. Can I help strengthen it?" Dallas suddenly opened his eyes and stared at him. "This can be considered indirect murder. If the circumstances are severe, it could be classified as murder. According to Article 75 of the Penal Code of Moj, the punishment could be 7 years or more of imprisonment, or even the death penalty. Have you had enough of life? I'm asking you." The driver looked helpless.